Cristiano Ronaldo jabbed the closed door button repeatedly, cursing under his breath as footsteps echoed down the marble hallway of the Burj Khalifa's executive floor. He'd specifically chosen to leave the charity gala early to avoid any unnecessary encounters. The last thing he needed was small talk with. "Hold the elevator." Ronaldo's stomach dropped as he recognized the voice. Of all people, it had to be him. The universe, it seemed, had a twisted sense of humor. Before he could pretend not to hear, a hand shot between the closing doors, forcing them back open. Leo Messi stood there, slightly out of breath, his perfectly tailored black suit a stark contrast to Ronaldo's navy blue ensemble. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second before both men instinctively looked away. Without a word, Messi stepped into the elevator, positioning himself in the opposite corner. The tension was immediate and suffocating. Ronaldo fixed his gaze on the illuminated floor numbers: 124, 123, 122. Still 90 floors to go. He pulled out his phone, pretending to be absorbed in messages, though the poor reception made it nothing more than a prop. The descent continued in uncomfortable silence until, somewhere around the 97th floor, the elevator shuddered. Both men grabbed the handrails as the cab lurched violently, lights flickering. There was a grinding sound from above, followed by the sharp snap of cables. The elevator dropped several feet before the emergency brakes engaged with a deafening screech. The sudden stop nearly knocked them off their feet. The main lights died, replaced by dim emergency lighting that cast eerie shadows across their faces. "You've got to be kidding me," Ronaldo muttered, immediately pressing the emergency call button. Nothing happened. He pressed it again, harder this time, as if force alone could make it work. Messi pulled out his own phone. "No signal," he said, his Argentine accent thick with frustration. It was the first time either had spoken directly to the other in months, since the disastrous match in Saudi Arabia. "Move over," Ronaldo commanded, stepping toward the control panel. "Let me try something. Because obviously you know more about fixing elevators than I do?" Messi's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Please, enlighten us with your expertise in elevator maintenance." Ronaldo turned sharply, his jaw clenched. "At least I'm trying to do something instead of just standing there making snide comments. Like pressing buttons that clearly don't work? Very productive." The air between them crackled with 2 decades of rivalry, bitter defeats, and media-fueled antagonism. Ronaldo took a step forward, his fists clenched. "Listen, you little A loud creak from above cut him off. Both men instinctively looked up at the ceiling, their personal animosity momentarily forgotten in the face of their precarious situation. "Did you hear that?" Messi asked, his voice quieter now. Another creak, longer this time, followed by the distinct sound of metal grinding against metal. The elevator swayed slightly. "We need to stabilize it," Ronaldo said, his competitive instincts shifting to survival mode. "Spread your weight out. Corner to corner." For a moment, Messi looked like he might argue simply out of habit, but self-preservation won out. He nodded, moving to the corner diagonal from Ronaldo. The elevator steadied. They stood in tense silence for several minutes, each man lost in his own thoughts. The emergency light cast a pale blue glow across their faces, making them look older, more vulnerable than their carefully curated public images ever showed. "Someone will notice we're missing," Messi finally said, though he didn't sound entirely convinced. Ronaldo laughed humorlessly. "Will they? I told everyone I was leaving early to catch a flight. What about you?" "I said the same thing." Messi closed his eyes, leaning his head back against the wall. "Different flight, obviously." "Obviously." Ronaldo checked his watch. 11:47 p.m. The gala would be winding down soon, but most of the staff had already gone home. It could be hours before anyone realized something was wrong. The reality of their situation began to sink in. They were trapped, suspended nearly 1,000 feet in the air, with no working phone, no emergency contact, and no choice but to rely on each other. And to make matters worse, the temperature in the elevator was already beginning to rise. Ronaldo loosened his tie, trying to ignore the droplet of sweat rolling down his back. He glanced at Messi, who had removed his jacket and was now sitting on the floor, his back against the wall. Despite everything, there was something almost comical about their situation. The 2 greatest footballers of their generation, who had spent careers trying to outdo each other, now reduced to sharing a broken elevator. "You know what's funny?" Ronaldo said, surprising himself by breaking the silence. "I almost took the stairs." Messi looked up, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I almost waited for the next elevator when I saw it was you." Their eyes met again, but this time neither looked away immediately. In the dim light, they could almost see past the layers of rivalry and resentment to the younger versions of themselves who had once shared nothing but a pure love for the beautiful game. A sudden tremor shook the elevator, stronger than before. Both men tensed, instinctively reaching for the handrails. As the shaking subsided, they exchanged glances that acknowledged an uncomfortable truth. If they were going to make it through this night, they would need to do something neither had ever been particularly good at: work together. The real question was, could two men who had spent their entire careers trying to prove they were better than the other put aside their differences long enough to survive? The digital display on Ronaldo's watch showed 12:23 a.m. They'd been trapped for nearly 40 minutes, and the temperature continued to rise. Both men had shed their suit jackets, and Ronaldo's pristine white shirt now clung to his back with sweat. "We need to try something else," Messi said, breaking a 15-minute silence. He stood up from his corner, wiping his forehead with his sleeve. "The emergency button's useless, phones are dead, but there has to be another way." Ronaldo watched as his rival began examining the elevator's ceiling, looking for any potential escape route. Despite himself, he couldn't help but notice how Messi approached the problem with the same methodical precision he showed on the field. "The maintenance hatch," Ronaldo suggested, pointing upward. "Every elevator has one." Messi followed his gaze to the ceiling panel. "Could work, but we'd need height." He glanced at Ronaldo, both men realizing simultaneously what that meant. "I could lift you," Ronaldo offered, then quickly added, "since I'm stronger." Messi's eyes narrowed. "Stronger? Based on what? Those staged Instagram workout videos? At least I show my training. Some of us don't need to hide behind growth hormone treatments." The words hung in the air like poison. Messi's face darkened, and for a moment Ronaldo thought he might actually throw a punch. Instead, the Argentine turned away, his shoulders tight with anger. "You know what?" Messi's voice was quiet but intense. "This right here? This is why everyone says you're the problem. You always have to make it personal. Always have to push it too far." "Me?" Ronaldo laughed incredulously. "What about Barcelona's media machine? The constant suggestions that you're the pure talent and I'm just a manufactured athlete? Don't pretend your hands are clean." Another tremor shook the elevator, stronger than the last. Both men grabbed the rails, their argument momentarily forgotten as the cab swayed precariously. When the shaking subsided, Messi spoke again, but his tone had changed. "My daughter asked me something interesting last week." He slid down the wall, sitting once more. "She wanted to know why I don't like you." Ronaldo raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "I realized I didn't have a good answer," Messi continued. "I started talking about matches, about rivalry, about competition. But she's 8. She just looked at me and said, 'But Papa, it's just a game.'" He shook his head, smiling slightly. "Out of the mouths of babes, right?" The words settled over them, carrying the weight of 2 decades of manufactured antagonism. Ronaldo found himself thinking of his own children, of the example he was setting. "Junior asked me something similar," he admitted, loosening his tie further. "After that charity match in Riyadh. He wanted to know why we couldn't just be friends." He paused, then added quietly, "I didn't have a good answer either." The tension in the elevator shifted, becoming something different, more contemplative. Both men sat in silence for a moment, lost in thought. "You know what's really crazy?" Ronaldo said finally. "I don't even remember how it started. This thing between us. Do you?" Messi shook his head. "Media narratives, probably. They needed a rivalry. We gave them one. And then it became real." "Did it?" Messi looked at him directly. "Or did we just convince ourselves it was real because everyone expected it to be?" Before Ronaldo could respond, the elevator lurched violently. The emergency light flickered and a loud grinding sound came from above. Both men scrambled to their feet. "We need to get out of here," Ronaldo said urgently. "Now." This time, when their eyes met, there was no hostility, only shared purpose. Without another word, Ronaldo braced himself against the wall, interlocking his fingers to create a foothold. Messi nodded, understanding the plan instantly. "On 3, Messi said, stepping forward. 1, 2. Ronaldo tensed, ready to lift. 3. Messi stepped into Ronaldo's hands, and in one smooth motion, Ronaldo boosted him upward. Years of athletic training made the movement almost effortless, their bodies working in perfect synchronization. Messi's fingers found the edges of the maintenance hatch, and he pulled himself up to examine it. "It's bolted shut," he called down. "But the bolts look old. If we had something to," he stopped suddenly, looking down at Ronaldo with an odd expression. "What is it?" "Your watch," Messi said. "The one you're wearing. It's the limited edition Bulgari, isn't it? With the titanium case?" Ronaldo glanced at his wrist. "Yes, but what does that understanding dawned? The edge of the case. It might be strong enough. How much did that watch cost?" About 2 million euros. Their eyes met again, and for the first time since entering the elevator, both men smiled. Well, Ronaldo said, reaching to unfasten the watch, I guess we're about to find out if it was worth it. As he handed the watch up to Messi, neither man mentioned how naturally they had fallen into cooperation or how easily their rivalry had been set aside in the face of crisis. But both felt it, and both understood that whatever happened next would fundamentally change their relationship forever. The question was, were they ready for that change? The sound of metal scraping against metal filled the elevator as Messi worked at the maintenance hatch bolts with Ronaldo's watch. Sweat dripped from his forehead, each drop falling into the dim space below. Ronaldo maintained his position, muscles burning as he provided the stable platform his former rival needed. Almost, Messi muttered, twisting the watch's edge against the third bolt. Got it. The bolt gave way with a satisfying crack, though the victory came at the expense of the watch's pristine case. How bad is it? Ronaldo called up, referring to the watch. Let's just say you won't be getting your money back, Messi replied, starting on the final bolt. But since when do you care about money? Since my mother reminded me last week that I'm not immortal, Ronaldo answered, surprising himself with his candor. She sat me down and asked about my legacy, not the trophies or the records, but what I'm leaving behind for my children, for the world. The rhythmic scraping paused briefly. And what did you tell her? Ronaldo shifted his stance, adjusting to the growing fatigue in his arms. I told her what she wanted to hear, that I've invested wisely, that I'm thinking about the future. But the truth, he exhaled heavily. The truth is, I'm terrified. The final bolt came loose, and Messi carefully set the ruined watch on the elevator floor before continuing his work on the hatch. You? Terrified? That's not in the Cristiano Ronaldo brand guidebook. Neither is being trapped in an elevator with Leo Messi. Yet here we are. Ronaldo managed a short laugh. But yes, terrified. Every morning I wake up and check the mirror for new wrinkles. Count the gray hairs I pretend aren't there. Time is the one opponent I can't outrun or outwork. The hatch creaked open slightly, and Messi paused his efforts. You think I don't feel the same? Last month, my son beat me in a one-on-one in our backyard. Actually beat me, no letting him win. I celebrated with him, but that night, he shook his head. I couldn't sleep. The curse of being the best, Ronaldo said softly. Everyone expects us to be immortal. Correction, Messi grunted, pushing harder against the hatch. Everyone expects us to be enemies who happen to be immortal. The hatch suddenly gave way, swinging open with a loud clang. Stale air from the elevator shaft rushed in, bringing with it the distant sounds of the building's mechanics. What do you see? Ronaldo asked, his arms trembling slightly now. Messi pulled himself up further, poking his head through the opening. Cable systems definitely damaged. We're caught between floors, maybe 80 levels up. There's a maintenance ladder on the shaft wall, but it's a few feet away. Can we reach it? If we're careful. Very careful. Messi ducked back down, looking at Ronaldo with an expression that mixed concern and determination. But first, we need to trade places. My arms are longer. I'll have a better chance of holding you while you make the jump to the ladder. Ronaldo's pride flared instinctively at the suggestion, but he quickly suppressed it. You're right, he admitted, the words feeling foreign on his tongue. Help me get you down first. The process of switching positions was precarious, requiring a level of trust neither man had expected to extend to the other. As Messi helped guide Ronaldo up toward the hatch, the elevator swayed ominously. You know what's ironic? Ronaldo said as he got his bearings at the top. All those years of competing, trying to prove I was better than you, and now my life literally depends on your strength. Stranger things have happened, Messi replied, settling into the bracing position. Though not many. As Ronaldo surveyed their situation through the hatch, he found himself speaking again, voicing thoughts he'd never shared with anyone. Sometimes I wonder if we pushed each other too far. Not just ourselves, but the whole sport. Made it more about individual glory than the beautiful game. Having regrets? Messi asked, his tone curious rather than accusatory. Not regrets. More like perspective. Ronaldo shifted carefully, preparing for what came next. We were so busy trying to be the GOAT that we forgot to just be human sometimes. The elevator groaned, the sound echoing through the shaft. Whatever they were going to do, they needed to do it soon. Ready, Messi called up. Almost. Ronaldo looked down at the man who had been his measuring stick for so many years. Leo, yeah, if we survive this, maybe we should tell them the truth. What truth? That we never really hated each other. That we needed each other. That without you. Ronaldo paused, the words catching in his throat. Without you pushing me, I never would have become who I am. The silence that followed was heavy with 2 decades of unspoken acknowledgments. Finally, Messi spoke, his voice thick with emotion. Cristiano, yes, let's survive first. Then we can rewrite history. Ronaldo nodded, turning back to face the darkness of the elevator shaft. The maintenance ladder seemed impossibly far away, but he had made a career out of achieving the impossible. He took a deep breath, muscles tensing for what would either be their salvation or... Another violent shudder ran through the elevator cab and the decision was made for them. It was now or never. On 3, Ronaldo said, his voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut. 1. The future of their rivalry and possibly their lives hung literally in the balance. But for the first time in their long, intertwined careers, they faced the challenge not as opponents, but as allies. Whether that would be enough remained to be seen. 2. Messi's grip tightened on Ronaldo's legs, both men acutely aware that their lives depended on the next few seconds. 3. Ronaldo launched himself toward the maintenance ladder, his body slicing through the darkness of the elevator shaft. Time seemed to slow as he hung suspended in the air, decades of athletic training focusing into the single moment. His fingers stretched out, reaching for the cold metal rungs that meant survival. The impact sent shockwaves through his arms as his hands found their target. For one terrifying moment, his grip started to slip on the sweat-slicked metal. Then muscle memory took over, and he locked his hold on the ladder, pressing his body against it as his heart thundered in his chest. Made it, he called down, his voice echoing in the vast shaft. The elevator chose that moment to lurch violently, the sound of straining cables filling the space with an otherworldly screech. Messi lost his balance, stumbling backward as the cab swayed. Leo, Ronaldo shouted. You need to jump. Now. The hatch, Messi started. Forget the hatch. Jump. Perhaps it was the commanding tone in Ronaldo's voice or maybe just survival instinct, but Messi didn't hesitate further. He took 2 quick steps and launched himself toward Ronaldo's position on the ladder. Time slowed again as Ronaldo watched his former rival soar through the darkness. Messi's trajectory was perfect, of course it was. When had Leo Messi ever been anything but precise? But he was going to fall short. The realization hit Ronaldo with crystal clarity. Without help, Messi wouldn't make it. In that fraction of a second, every tabloid headline, every heated rivalry moment, every perceived slight disappeared. Ronaldo released his right hand's grip on the ladder and reached out, his body screaming in protest at supporting his full weight with one arm. Their hands met in the darkness with a thunderous clap that echoed through the shaft. The impact nearly tore Ronaldo's other hand from the ladder, but he held on, his muscles straining beyond anything he'd ever demanded of them in training. I've got you, he grunted through clenched teeth, feeling Messi's hand grasp his forearm in return. The ladder, reach for it. Messi swung his other arm out, fingers finding the metal rung. Together, they managed to get him secured on the ladder just as a deafening crack came from above. Both men looked up to see the elevator's final cable snap. The cab plunged into the darkness below them, the sound of screeching metal and shattering glass growing fainter as it fell. The wind from its passage buffeted them on the ladder, but they held firm, pressed against the rungs until the echoes of the crash faded into silence. Well, Messi said after a moment, his voice shaky but trying for lightness, I guess we're taking the stairs from now on. A laugh bubbled up from somewhere deep in Ronaldo's chest, slightly hysterical but genuine. You know what this means, don't you? That we're going to be all over the headlines tomorrow? No, Ronaldo replied, still chuckling. It means I finally assisted you in scoring. There was a beat of silence before Messi joined in the laughter, the sound bouncing off the shaft walls. It was the laughter of men who had stared death in the face and lived to tell about it, but it was also something more, the release of 20 years of manufactured tension. Some assist, Messi said when they caught their breath. Couldn't you have made it easier? And risk ruining my reputation? Never. They began their slow climb up the ladder, muscles burning from the ordeal. Every few rungs, one of them would crack another joke about their situation, the humor helping to mask the trembling in their limbs from both exertion and fading adrenaline. "You know," Messi said as they neared the next floor's doors, "when I woke up this morning, I didn't expect to owe you my life." Ronaldo was quiet for a moment before responding. "When I woke up this morning, I didn't expect to realize how much time we've wasted." Wasted? Fighting. Competing. Trying to tear each other down instead of. He paused, searching for the right words. Instead of appreciating that we pushed each other to be better. That we created something special together, even if we were too stubborn to see it. They reached the elevator doors for what appeared to be the 82nd floor. Working together, they managed to force them open enough to squeeze through, collapsing onto the plush carpet of the hallway. For several minutes, they just lay there, staring at the ceiling and breathing heavily. "My son was right," Messi finally said. "We could have been friends. Could have been." Ronaldo turned his head to look at him. "Who says we still can't be?" Before Messi could respond, the sound of running footsteps filled the hallway. Security guards and emergency personnel rounded the corner, radios crackling with activity. The outside world was about to intrude on their moment of understanding. As they were helped to their feet and surrounded by concerned staff, Ronaldo caught Messi's eye one last time. An entire conversation passed between them in that look, an acknowledgement of what they'd been through, what they'd discovered, and what might come next. The media would have a field day with this story, of course. But for once, neither man cared about the headlines. They had experienced something more real than any newspaper could capture, more meaningful than any trophy they'd ever won. The question was, what would they do with this new understanding once the dust settled and the world expected them to return to their familiar roles as rivals? 1 month later, Madrid. Ronaldo stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie for the third time. The hotel suite's lighting was perfect, but something still felt off. Perhaps it wasn't the tie at all, but the butterflies in his stomach, a sensation he hadn't felt since his first professional match decades ago. His phone buzzed with a text message, "Stop fixing your tie. It's perfect, and you're going to be late." He smiled, wondering how Leo had known. In the weeks since their elevator ordeal, they developed an almost telepathic understanding of each other's habits. Daily messages had evolved into video calls, which had somehow transformed into their families planning vacations together. The media was still trying to make sense of their public appearances, photos of them having coffee together, attending each other's charity events, even their children having playdates. "On my way," he texted back, grabbing his jacket. Today would change everything again, but this time they were choosing the change together. The conference room at the Real Madrid training facility was packed with journalists from around the world. Cameras flashed as Ronaldo entered from one side of the stage while Messi walked in from the other. The rumors about this press conference had been swirling for weeks, but no one had guessed the true purpose. They met at the center of the stage, shaking hands with genuine warmth before taking their seats. The gesture sent a ripple through the audience. There was none of the usual stiffness that had characterized their previous interactions. "Thank you all for coming," Ronaldo began, leaning into the microphone. "Leo and I have an announcement to make, but first, we'd like to tell you a story about an elevator." For the next 20 minutes, they took turns recounting their experience, finishing each other's sentences and occasionally sharing knowing looks that made the journalists whisper among themselves. They spoke about fear, about pride, about realizing that some rivalries are more about what others expect than what you actually feel. "We've spent 20 years being what everyone wanted us to be," Messi said, his voice clear and confident. "Two sides of a coin, unable to exist without opposition. But that night in the elevator taught us something important. We're not symbols or brands or even rivals. We're just two men who love football." Ronaldo nodded, taking over. "Which is why we're here today. Leo and I are announcing the creation of the Elevate Foundation, a joint initiative to reshape how we think about competition in youth sports." The announcement caused a stir in the room. Messi held up a hand for quiet before continuing. "We've both seen how the pressure of rivalry can affect young players. How it can turn something beautiful into something consuming. Our foundation will work to promote healthy competition while teaching children that greatness doesn't have to come at the expense of others. The truth is," Ronaldo added, "some of my proudest achievements came because Leo pushed me to be better. Not because we were enemies, but because we inspired each other. That's the message we want to share." The questions from journalists came rapid fire after that. Had they planned this all along? Was it a publicity stunt? How would this affect their legacy? Through it all, they maintained their newfound ease with each other, often exchanging amused glances at particularly outrageous questions. Finally, a veteran sports writer asked the question they'd been waiting for, does this mean the rivalry is over? Ronaldo and Messi looked at each other, sharing a smile that held the weight of their shared experience. The rivalry ended the moment we realized we needed each other to survive, Ronaldo answered. What you're seeing now is something better, a partnership. Though I still say I'm faster, Messi added with a grin. In your dreams, Leo? In your dreams. The laughter that filled the room was genuine, and even the most cynical journalists could see that something fundamental had shifted between these two legends of the game. Later that evening, their families gathered for dinner at Ronaldo's Madrid home. As their children played football in the garden, paying no attention to whose father had won more Ballons d'Or, the two men stood on the terrace watching the sunset. They're going to say we've gone soft, Messi said, sipping his mate. Let them, Ronaldo replied. We've earned the right to write our own ending. Speaking of endings, Messi turned to face him. I've been thinking about doing one final charity match. Both of us on the same team for once. Ronaldo raised an eyebrow. The world might not be ready for that. The world wasn't ready for us to be friends either, but here we are. Below them, their children's laughter floated up from the garden. Cristiano Jr. had just attempted his father's signature step over while Thiago Messi applauded the effort. The sight made both men smile. You know what the best part is? Ronaldo said softly. They'll never have to pretend to hate each other. Messi nodded, understanding perfectly. Sometimes it takes being trapped to find true freedom. As the sun painted the Madrid sky in brilliant oranges and purples, two of football's greatest rivals, now friends, began planning their next chapter. The elevator that had nearly claimed their lives had given them something invaluable instead, the courage to be who they truly were, not who the world wanted them to be. And somewhere in Dubai, in the Burj Khalifa, a repaired elevator carried on with its routine journeys, unaware that it had changed sporting history forever.
Tell us in the comments what part of this story impressed you the most. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the world of incredible events.